What did you discover about yourself during this process of first co-authoring, but then also adding AI to that mix?
I think co-authoring was a wonderful experience because it brings different points of view. And obviously, because of the length of time we wrote the book, the changes take place. So we had to be really adaptable and really aware of what was happening in the business climate as we moved 10 years down the line. The experience with AI was interesting for me. It, I believe, showed me how I had to phrase things very accurately. I had to know what I wanted. It wasn't just a free discussion backwards and forwards. When we went, and I think a few times, we went in and rephrased. We asked a question or we gave information a different way to get an answer. And I think for me, the learning was to be more aware of how you say things, how you ask, and to be also aware of what you're expecting. And sometimes what you're expecting may not be the right answer. There was one stage where I think AI came back with a different way of phrasing that really we said, okay, because I would not have come up with that. So that was sort of alarming and exciting.
I love the words alarming and exciting as a way to capture at least part of your journey. Fred, what was your experience, and when did you find that you could really trust this new way of working?
Well, it was very early on, especially since we talked about the validation process, whether it was that short case study I just talked about, asking our AI assistant if that was adequate, the 3 points that we had made, and it came back and it cited the body of work of the 1,500 pages, that not only does the case study fit within the context of our book, but it's still relevant in terms of the latest practices. And it went into depth into how those 3 steps were the key fundamentals that we should be indeed focusing on. So validation, that yes, our initial thoughts were spot on. And then in certain cases, we can look back and see that the phraseology as we worded our documents sometimes weren't as clear to the reader potentially as they were in our heads as we were going. And we worked so closely together. It was often like, although 2 different experiences, it was like one mind. And we'd say, yeah, that sounds good. And then we'd ask our AI assistant, how does this read to the supervisor level? And it would come back and, say things like, well, with vast 25 years of experience, this makes sense. But somebody with 5 years experience, this may not resonate without more detail. And then so we would go in and say, okay, well, then provide more detail from within our 1,500 pages, or bring in extra, thought if there's anything relevant in that realm as well. And so we could then assess. So building that confidence, that validation, really turned it from, kind of a adversarial or totally unknown to a real trusted partner.